Hello, good morning, everybody. Hi, hope everybody's doing well. And here I am. And why did I want to do this live on bilingual networking? Simply because I have very often people, clients, prospects, be it newly graduate, first time on the market, juniors, seniors, people who are transitioning bilinguals and culture individuals who just love to apply online and depend on online application at about 100%. It's one way to go. And when you get that first interview, it's wonderful, but often it just stops there. And then the question is, what's happening? And that's a very valid question because and that is the reason why I'm doing this. I wanted to talk more about networking and bilingual networking because one thing is to network, another thing is to network when you're bilingual or a third culture individual. And that's really what I wanted to come up here and talk about. And just to let you know, I'm going to be pretty much telling you a story or stories, my personal one, about networking and how to deal with languages coming back and forth and not losing and not going insane while you're doing at it. Back in the days when I was in France, LinkedIn barely made its beginning, and so I got on there immediately. And at that time, I moved from Milwaukee, United States, to France, and more specifically Nancy, which is the eastern part of the United States, with my family. And yes, I had already had French classes back in the States, back at the university. But I will tell you honestly, all that Balzac and French literature did not help me find a job or a doctor or buy bread. Yes, because even though you probably say, well, Tanya, you can speak in front of a camera, it takes a lot of courage to get on the camera and speak about this because as a bilingual, or actually I'm a third cultural individual, I'm from Slovenia, I speak Slovenian, and then I was in the US, I speak US American, and then you're in France, and I also speak French. And having this bouquet of languages, although some people say, wow, for me, it was a curse. It was a curse. I thought, what did I do? Because it's a constant juggling act. And when it comes to networking, it's always the fear of not being understood, looking ridiculous, and getting the side eye. So that's why I really wanted to come out here and tell you about this. So here, going back to my story, here I am in Nancy. I think, I'm producing Balzac, but guess what? Nobody understands me. And what really moved the needle a little bit is even though I had French classes and there's a lot of grammar and it was very strict exercises, I started watching TV. Fortunately, I have two daughters. And so when I picked them up at school, that gave me the opportunity to listen and observe. I never dared to speak because I was so I am an introvert, believe it or not, and just very anxious. So one day, I went to pick up my children, and there at the entry was a woman, and she said, "Hi, how are you? My name is Anna," and she basically she spoke English, and she came from a mixed family similar to me, and she spoke English. And I thought, oh, that was really nice. So we started speaking, and I said, well, thank you very much. I'm new, blah blah blah. And how about we have coffee? Well, guess what? That coffee that we had a week later led to her telling me a contact that is dying to have a person on my profile in HR and recruitment. And that's how I got my first job at the business school in Nancy. So basically, you know what, guys? I didn't even know I was networking, and I was networking. This is kind of the freaky thing that I learned the hard way is that sometimes we use all these tools online that we have and we perfect them and we sound like Chat GPT, but in fact, most of the networking is really happening when you're not networking. And that was the case for me. And so, what I wanted to really, with this story, I wanted to really emphasize the fact that you are already networking when you're talking to people, be it other coworkers, other managers within the company, within the organization, be it students, professors, anybody. Yeah, here it's not so much networking, it's having a relationship because people are interesting and interested. So having that exchange and that communication with people that you already feel comfortable is a great place to start. So that's basically the first part that I wanted to talk to you about, and say that take the edge off of being the bilingual or trilingual, where you're kind of jumping back and forth, preparing scripts and whatnot. I am still there, mind you. I am still there, but improving. And something that I like to say also is practice makes it permanent. The more you practice, the better you get at it. It's like the famous bike, or like tasting for the first time the snails. Well, you may or may not like it, but if you try it the second time, actually it tastes tastier because the recipe is going to be different. Anyway, um, so that's what I wanted to first of all tell you about. The second point I wanted to talk to you about is the hidden job market. A lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, most of the job you get in the hidden job market," and a lot of articles on LinkedIn will talk about it. And here I'm going to give you basically, I already told you an example of my hidden job market is basically talk to another mom who actually knew a person who was looking for a job. So it's all around you. But in order to understand the hidden job market, I'm just kind of looking over here because I have some notes, I hope you don't mind, is to understand recruitment. And what happens in recruitment is after many, many years of recruitment and also being in an HR position, there are some differences. So what happens when there is a need for employment? Let's say, I'll give you an example. When I worked back in the days in a company, when there was a need, the manager would say, "Oh gosh, we need an extra person on the team in the marketing, and the people we have is not enough for the new order that's coming in." So it's really the manager who's going to be the first person who's going to say there is a need. And then what they do then, as that need is, they're going to start talking all around their network, while and while meanwhile the HR is going to be more of how can I say, if I would compare recruitment to a kitchen, the manager is like the head chef, the HR is like the sous chef or the assistant who kind of formalizes and organizes the whole recruitment process. They help sit down and write out the job description and organize the interviews and where the job is going to be posted. Is there going to be a recruiter or not? Notice I said recruiter comes a lot later, in the team. So once you have the manager and the HR that kind of agreed that the budget is there, they're going to start recruiting themselves. So they're recruiting, and they're also talking around them. Yeah, you have the robots or the ATS on different job boards, but you also they're talking, and then if the job isn't filled right away, basically, then they may or may not call a recruiter. Now, this really depends on the size of the company, the team. There's a lot of factors that depend how they're going to be doing this and how the recruiter is going to come in. But basically, while this is happening, the recruitment is still happening. There's still the hiring manager and the team and the HR. They're all talking around. So this often, if once you know this, I think knowledge is power. When you know this, you can talk. It will propose you to talk to a variety of people. And there's a side door here, and a side door of opportunity where you can come in and say hello, and have that conversation, because whoever you're with, you never know where they are, where they're going, where they're coming from, because the HR manager and the recruiter, they are part of the recruitment, but before they were someone else, and maybe tomorrow they may go somewhere else. So, excuse me, always keep that in mind. So that's pretty much how recruitment works in a nutshell, comparing it kind of to a restaurant. Then basically I wanted to share something about confidence. Now, what did I want to talk to you about confidence? Contrary to popular belief, confidence is there's no gene to confidence. You basically have to learn this confidence, and confidence starts with doubt. Yes, when you're incredibly doubtful and you don't want to do it and you're admiring, let me tell you a little story. I have a very good friend who's a sales rep, and I always admire how he just nonchalantly goes there. Il parle en français, un poquito en español, and deshalb auf Deutsch, ein po slovensko, and then he switches back into English without a problem. And I'm like, gosh, you make it sound good. And he said, actually, I hate it. But with time, I've basically jumped the doubt. Jump the doubt. So I'm going to repeat that. Jump the doubt. There are many different methods, but I just want to underline the fact that nobody's born with this gene. You just have to train yourself. And so what my personal favorite is yeah, I have this little cell phone that I will often, I'll use ChatGPT to translate what's in my mind, and then I'll use the little prompts to help me. But and then once I've practiced a little bit, I'm going to count to five, five, four, three, two, one, and then I'm going to jump into action. Because sooner or later, I have to jump into action. If I don't jump into action, I'm going to be sitting in the corner and be invisible and have a lot of regrets, which I have had. I'm not going to say the contrary. So basically, I use this little technique that helps me jump doubt into confidence. And the more you do it, the better it gets. So practice makes permanent. The second point I wanted to make is networking, especially as a bilingual, you want to do it intentionally and with a purpose. And how can that be done? Basically, the first thing I ask myself is, what is my goal? What are some problems that I need to solve? So I'll give you an example of a recent coaching that I had, a person that was interested in and just fed up with credit card fraud. And they said, I'm so fed up with this. I just want to do something. I want to do a job in this. And then and we looked up at a bunch of jobs, and basically there was cybersecurity amongst many. So basically, identifying that problem and the jobs that correspond to that problem. That's probably the first thing you want to do, is identify that goal this way. Then the fun part begins. Identify the people that you already know, the lowest hanging apples that are already here, that are ready in this domain, and how you can come into contact. Now, some of these people you may have already spoken to, you already know. I always say the lowest hanging fruit. Start there, because you'll be more comfortable in speaking their language, and reaching out, especially just the security factor of reaching out is going to be easy. So start there, practice there, and work your way. So target these people that you know, and then work your way up. Maybe these people that you know, they may know someone else, and that will help you practice in getting a little bit more confident, little by little. Baby steps, just baby steps. I often say, well, baby step is kind of like eating ice cream, but actually it's not. You eat the ice cream a lot faster than than baby steps. So baby steps would be a good way to go. And then once you have this information, you identified your goal and reached out to people and identified people. Identify like 5 or 10 people, no more, no less, and just concentrate on that. Then ask yourself, how are you going to be connected with them? Is it going to be first with via email? Are you going to call them right away? Are you going to connect them on LinkedIn? So if you're kind of the shy type like I am, try an email, and then, follow up if they didn't get back to you right away, follow up with a call. I know nowadays calling isn't that much in, but you know what? People are actually happy. Just yesterday, that's exactly what I did. I was looking for a coach to help me out, and I sent 2 or 3 emails, and then I decided, well, I'm not getting anything. I just picked up the phone and talked, and I had a lovely conversation. It was a really nice conversation. So I always say, when you're feeling that it's the right time, give them a call. If not, a message or a direct email, or even a vocal. That could be a great way to go. And then finally is, if give yourself a time span, do this for 3 or 4 weeks. I always say 30 days. It's like a habit. If you want to install a habit, 30 days. I think I heard it on TED Talks. Try it for 30 days, and at the end of 30 days, evaluate what worked, do more. What didn't work, get it out. And then also evaluate the context. How did they respond or not? And then add accordingly. And I'll make it be organic, and keep it alive, keep it going. Then another thing you may be asking yourself is, are you more of an online or offline networker? If you're more of an online networker, then you may want to choose maybe one, maximum two online. Um, places where you want to network. I personally like LinkedIn because it's been very fruitful, very interesting, and it's serious, and I really enjoy it. But there is also something that's called, let me see, to check, Zing, which is the German version of LinkedIn that also works well in German speaking countries, as well as, yeah, Zing is a good one. So really, I would say choose one and just concentrate on that one, because if you have too many, you're like everywhere and nowhere, and then if you're everywhere and nowhere, you stay invisible. So the what is the reason of doing that? Because you won't get far with networking. So choose your platform and then start with a connection. Now, most of us, I like to mention always this story, when you connect, you just click on anybody and say, okay, let's connect, and you're finished, or are you very intentional? Example, I used to go fishing with my grandfather, and my grandfather, this would be like a ritual, he would like prepare for a week in advance, and he got specific tools and specific feed, and he needed a certain boat, and we had to be out there at 3 in the morning. Yeah, guys, it's not fun at 3 in the morning, but anyway, did I enjoy it then? No, but today I see what I got from it. So back to the story is that he prepared. He knew exactly that he wanted to get a fish type that's called bass. So we prepared all the tools, the rod, and the feed according to that. So we went out there at 3 in the morning, and about between 4 and 5 in the morning, he had 3 or 4 bass. It's a type of fish. Now, why am I telling you this story? Is basically be intentional with your message. Go back to, like I said, why are you connecting to this person? What is the connection to the problem in the job that you have? And then write, don't just click on them, take a look. And if it's someone that you don't know, but you're entertaining to connect with, think about it. See if you've already went back and forth with commenting and that you know each other a little bit online from talking, and then use that as a starter point to your message. Write a message. Now, I'm not saying write a book or write a paragraph, just 2 or 3 sentences that says who you are and how you spoke, and make it authentic. Let it come from the heart. If you're using ChatGPT, fine, but put some heart into that. You don't want to sound robotic. You're not a robot, right? So, write a little note, be it for a person that you know or not. Either way, just be intentional, be specific, and know why you're doing this. Um, Another way, if you choose to go online, is comments. Comments, algorithms, those algorithms just love comments. And not just any comments like, this is great, this is wonderful, thank you. Put in some juice, put in your expertise and how you see this, and give some thought to your feedback, because the more thoughtful it is, the more the algorithm is going to like it, and the more it's going to make you visible, and not only with others, but the person that you're connecting with. So really put in the heart. And that's where I say, if you put in the heart, that's where your job is, and that should be aligned. Also create content, do article summaries and your opinion about it, and share your expertise so people that you're connected with know where you're coming from. And last but not least, make sure you optimize that profile, that you have a nice smile. And as a bonus, guys, as a bonus, since you are bilingual, put your LinkedIn profile in 2 languages. Yes, it's possible. I think it's on if you're looking at the screen, it's on the one, it's on the side up above. You have the languages. You choose English you probably have English by default, and a second language. Do that. The algorithm is going to double. All right. So make sure you do that. And then online, I'm sorry. So now I've covered online. If offline, let's say you want to go to an event, and this is always a big one. How much can you handle on an event offline? Sometimes it can be quite overwhelming. And most of us, including me, I go there, I do it because I have to, but how many times have I come home without anything? And that's really not interesting. So before you go out there to a real live event, ask yourself who's going to be there. Now, if you're in the job market for big companies, you may look into events that are already online or offline, and if they happen each year, check last year how it was, where it was, who attended, and check into it and see if this is something that aligns with what you're looking at. It's really important that it kind of aligns back to you. Don't force yourself in doing it. Think about how it aligns to you. Also ask yourself, will I make meaningful context? Now, if you go to an event where there's like hundreds of people with stands and a lot of noise, as a bilingual who's kind of, you have your little scripts and you have organized in the columns in different languages and companies and how you're going to be hitting it, it can be just way overwhelming. So if this is too much, try to find events where they're smaller, quieter, and more conducive to speaking and exchanging with people. And then finally, not finally, another point is just ask yourself, do I like this event? And if it's not, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Why? Because often, if you're forcing yourself, I'm going to talk about me. If I force myself to go somewhere that I don't like, I'm going to have a face and I'm going to force myself to talk to people. But are other people going to really want to talk to me? No. Unfortunately, it's true that if you bring a kind of like a sad face, it's not going to work. So really ask yourself, do you like this type of event? Be honest. And is the timing right? Why attend a morning breakfast networking when you're not a morning person? That just sounds crazy. So really identify when is the right time, because that's when you're going to be at optimal. You're going to be wearing that smile naturally, and you're going to be interested and interesting. So this is an important part. And the last tip that I find that's really important is the famous pitch or narrative. I'm not even going to go there and tell you how to do it. I just wanted to share with you that I hate it. I hate it, but it's a label, it's a name. So most of us, since we don't like labels, we're going to put that aside and we're going to say, this thing that's called a pitch or a narrative is simply a way to greet and quickly say who you are, what you do, and how you do it. That's all. It's not a quick resume of your CV, and it's not being cheesy and selling and being pushy about finding a job. It's just a really authentic way of saying, hey, this is me. And if this sounds overwhelming, and this for me, it is overwhelming just to come in and say, voila, here I am. Start out small. Start with an icebreaker and say, if you're in an event, hey, how did you like the welcome speech? Or have you been here before? Those are kind of my great favorite icebreaker startups to start a conversation when the person in front of you may be also as quiet as you, and that person could be a key person. And that was the case with me a couple of years ago. I was in a women's association where we were networking with some really big wigs, and I really wanted to speak to a CEO, and I had such fear. But I had everything prepared in my little in my little phone. And of course, I counted 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the person, she was actually a really lovely human person. And she noticed that I was quite nervous and bluffed. I don't know how to say it really in English. I'm having a moment of lost in translation. But basically, I was flustered. There we go. And thankfully, she felt it, and she did her pitch first. And I said, and I was so happy she did it, because then I could come in and ask some questions and then ease into my presentation. So for those of you who are watching, if you're in front of a person who does that naturally, that's going to be easy, breezy, peasy, cheesy. But if not, start with a little icebreaker like I just mentioned, and you will be fine. So basically, that's pretty much it on my end. And what I wanted to share with you is, if I would sum up, is basically knowing the hidden market and how it works, and that it's sometimes we're unconscious that it's happening. So any conversation you're having is a networking opportunity. Dealing with confidence with a method that makes sense for you is important. Mine is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and pass into action. Whatever method works for you, use it. And or speak to someone that you admire and ask them how they do it. That's something I do, and that's also another way to network, really, by the way. Also network with purpose. that there's your goal, that that goal or that problem links you to people and jobs, and then that you're speaking coherently, and you're going to people that are the lowest reaching apple, and then go on from there. Identify how you're going to be networking online and offline, and really, really ask yourself, is this for me? Is it the right timing? Is this the environment that that I'm going to be comfortable speaking and preparing the pitch, especially if you're going bilingual, use ChatGPT, but I always say humanize it and practice a little bit before with a trusted friend, a trusted dog. Yes, I do. I do have the chance to speak to a dog. That really helps because the dog won't answer back, and that's wonderful. So that's basically the summary of it. I hope this little live was interesting and fruitful for you. I hope you're able to take a nugget of information, uh, be it a language, a confidence, whatnot. We're all in this together. I really believe that confidence, connection, and consistency, those are the three things that will play in anybody's favor. And thank you very much for attending. If you have any questions, you can either answer your questions below, come to me directly if you want to just review something or ask for an advice. No problem. You can just shoot me a DM, ask a question, and I'll be more than happy to spend that time with you and encourage you to go forward, and not, please, not discourage you from sitting in a corner and waiting for things to happen. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. Wishing you all the best. It takes a village, and I hope I can be part of that village. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon.